What do Alice in Chains, Kiss, Korn, Ozzy Osbourne, and Primus, just to name a few, all have in common? Our next guest, award-winning producer Toby Wright. We discuss what has to be present in new artists he's looking to produce and what you should be looking for when selecting a producer for your project, as well as some of the most valuable advice that you immediately put to use when you don't have a producer working with you, and much, much more. Right now. This episode of the MUBUTV Insider video series is brought to you by the Music Business Registry. The Music Business Registry is the leading music industry publisher of the most up-to-date contact information for major and independent record label A&R, music publishers, artist managers, music attorneys, music supervisors, and much, much more. The Music Business Registry is the trusted industry standard and source serving the music business community for over 30 years with the most accurate and up-to-date contact information available. Their titles include the A&R Registry, the Film and Television Music Guide, the Music Publisher Registry, and the Music Attorney Registry. All of their publications are available in PDF, CSV, or online subscription. Visit musicregistry.com and use coupon code MUBUTV10 at checkout. That's musicregistry.com. Coupon code MUBUTV10. When you're ready to put your music to work, musicregistry.com. Hi, it's Eric Knight from MUBUTV, where our mission is to educate, empower, and engage your music career. We're coming to you from the Global Rock Summit here in Burbank, California, where we managed to catch up with award-winning producer Toby Wright. Toby, it's an honor to have you on this show.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Pleasure to be here, Eric.
Yeah, thank you so much. I wanted to ask you, Toby, from your perspective, you just did the rock panel, or you're going to be doing the rock panel. From your perspective, what is the current state of rock music today, and where is it evolving to?
That's a good question. The state of today's music, I think, is pretty strong, actually. With a lot of DIY artists out there, a lot of people just, finding themselves creatively, and I think that's a really good platform for people to bounce from, right? And just to get into the next stratosphere or the next level in their career, and just write great songs, and because that's always what music has been about to me anyway, is a great song, and a great song will always sell music and be enjoyed by the fans.
Absolutely.
So I think it's, it just keeps going and going, and write those great songs, and I think that, that's what it's really all about. Absolutely. Toby, you've been involved with some of the most seminal hard rock acts, Alice in Chains, Metallica, on and on and on, Primus. For a debut rock metal act today, what would have to be present for you to want to get involved to produce it? Great songs. Okay. There again, right? So, yeah. It doesn't matter how fast a guitar player can pick. Well, it does in some instances, but right. That's not something I'm going to look for. I'm looking for great songs, because I can put together a lot of those chops, if you will, and have people practice. I'm developing artists as we speak, and I think that's really. The development side of things is really important, right? Yeah. So for those metal or just plain musicians who just love their instrument and want to get to the next level, I think it's really important that, they just practice and practice and practice, because, cut and paste, man, it's not where it's at, because you can't cut and paste in a live show. Right. And people love a live show. So I think it's really important to, for a musician to practice, practice, practice. Let me ask you, just as a side note that I had for you, what would you think your strength is? I know some producers that I've worked with in the past, some of them are incredible arrangers. What would you categorize? Is there a particular area that you feel like your strength is at? Is it developing the songs? Just out of curiosity. I think developing songs. Okay. And developing good habits in a band. Rehearsals and how to run those rehearsals. That's really important, because a lot of people just get in the rehearsal and they'll just do the same thing every time and not really accomplish much. Right. I can give you, step-by-step instructions on how to accomplish things every single day, so right. that you're not just spinning your wheels and playing the same old songs over and over again until you're bored. Because that's, that happens a lot, right? and especially when you're working on your own music, you know, you want to craft it to a point where, you know, it's just awesome and perfect in your mind.
Right.
But I think it's really important also that, you know, you let that go a bit and work on the next thing and then come back to it, and, you know, don't spend a lot of time in one place. And to answer your question, I think, you know, it has to do with arranging and discipline, of course, and then, you know, capturing live performance. I get really bored doing overdubs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like cut and paste. I'm not into it. Like
Yeah.
if you can't play your instrument, we don't deserve to be in the studio together. I have done that with people, and, you know, to me it's very boring. And, you know, do I utilize technology in a way that, you know, sometimes I can cut corners like that? Yes, I do. I'm not going to even make bones about it. But,
Right.
but I try to use the technology to a point where it's helpful and a tool, and not to be something that is leaned upon as a crutch. Right? So I think those are, you know, my strengths. And technically, music technically is something that I'm very strong at as well.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask you, take us on a day in the life of Toby Wright. When you're starting like a brand new record, what is your production process in terms of workflow and the things that you're looking for to get the best out of the act that you're working with? You know, whether it's song selection, arrangements, pre-production. Take us through that process.
Wow, good question. So it starts in the pre-production phase, right? And, you know, me examining the songs of or proposed songs of an artist. You know, going into a rehearsal space after selecting, you know, a few songs or 10 songs or whatever, if it's a record, just depends. And, you know, then going through that rehearsal phase, making the songs better by arrangement, and then having the artist, you know, just play them and play them and play them until there's no mistakes being made, but there's still energy behind them, you know, because musicians get very bored very quickly. Man, I played this song 327 times. I'm never making a mistake.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, and then they get bored and the energy's lost.
Right.
And then you go into the studio and you hit the record button and, man, I have the same attitude as I did in pre-production.
Right.
And then, you know, and then it's all lost. So
Right.
I love energetic, and, you know, I think that is a big catalyst to selling music and making great songs, as well as the performance behind it.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to a band the other day, and, you know, then I saw them actually last night, and they blew me away on stage. Their recordings need a lot of help.
Okay.
And that just proved my point, you know, that their live show kicked butt over their recordings. And I know there's a lot of bands out there like that.
Yeah.
You know, that they just don't have, either they don't have the opportunity to record live, or something happened and,
Right.
you know, it was a cut and paste project.
Yeah, so that's where that pre-production process goes. So you're very big into pre-production, getting in
Absolutely.
with the band,
Right.
listening to what's going on, making those changes.
Absolutely, and then we can get in the studio, and cutting tracks goes like boom, 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 and, you know, people are like, I'm done already?
Right.
Wow. So then I won't see I'll see the guitar player who plays the solos, and, you know, maybe not the rhythm player or the bass player or the drummer for a while, you know, because I'll work with maybe the synthesizer, you know, the keyboard player, or I'll work with, you know, the soloist and the vocals at the same time, interchanging, because I don't want a singer, first of all, to sing 10 songs in a row, for instance.
Right. Lose his voice, right.
Going to lose his voice, you know,
Exactly.
or her voice. It's going to just, the first song is going to be great, and then it's going to be all downhill from there.
Right.
So I think it's important that, you know, you space it out and, you know, just kind of intermingle both.
Yeah,
know?
your thing is capturing that vibe of the performance and capturing that lightning in a bottle.
Exactly. And that's what I love. You know, I've been privy to have some of the best musicians in the world be in the studio with them, and it's really fantastic to watch them capture that magic. And when you do, goosebumps everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't touch that. That was perfect. Oh man, I made a mistake. You know, so what?
Right.
Let's see where the mistake was and see if we can, if it
Right.
is fixable. If it's not, who cares?
Right.
Like, you know.
Some of the best mistakes have made it on the best records, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, when a band or an artist is looking to hire a producer for a project like you, what do you feel are the most important qualities that they should look for in making that decision? When they're choosing a producer, what do you think, you know, looking from the other side, what do you think those would be?
Good question again. Synergy is a good word to start with. Someone who kind of thinks like they do, and can, someone that can mold themselves into being a fifth or sixth or 10th member of the band, right? Who doesn't get in the way and doesn't try and take over. Personally, I won't make a Toby Wright record with your band, right? It's your band. Right. I'm here to help you be the best musician that you can be in this moment in time. Because next week you're going to be a different musician, right? And you're going to practice or do whatever, and you're going to be a different musician, right? Slightly, but you'll still be different. So in this moment in time, I want the best that I can get out of you. And so when bands are looking for producers, they should look for something like that instead of somebody who has a shit ton of accolades and they worked with the top artists and how are they in the studio to work with? Some of those guys I know are very, for lack of a better word, just hammer, and they don't really care about you as a musician or your creativity that has brought you together. They care about getting their stuff done. Right, which to me is not the right way to work. I don't work like that. I'm a lot more gentle with an artist, and I just love the creative process.
Yeah, I feel as an artist, you have to, I agree with you so much on that I have to connect with the person that I'm working with on every level, whether it's, doing production or working on a music video. I have to feel like there's a personal investment and connection like what you're saying, because if not, things will not go well. Right, exactly.
Yeah. And you won't get out of it as an artist that the vision that you started with.
Exactly.
And, I like to bring an artist's vision to the disc, to the radio, to the public, period. And to do that, you have to connect with those people to get the best creative, moments from them that you possibly can.
I agree. Toby, what suggestions can you offer a band that doesn't have access to someone such as yourself to achieve a better production out of their recordings? Let's say they're doing it by themselves, they don't have access to hire Toby. What do you think are the things that they should be doing or that they can be doing to help improve their quality of their productions?
Question everything.
Okay.
Are the two words that come to mind. Especially with your music, like go through, write that song, and then start tearing it down and starting over basically, and say, hey, do we like the drum beat in this verse? Does the transition go well into the pre-chorus or the chorus? And just start tearing it down. If you can make it better, you're doing pre-production right there on the spot. And so when you feel that you have the best that you possibly can, push record.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
And keep that recording.
Yeah. Toby, what do you like bands to do to best prepare before they start to work with you in the studio? You kind of touched about those areas a little bit, but let's say an act has hired you on to be on doing the next project. What do you like them to do to prep for that? Is there any kind of rituals or any kind of things that you like them to do in terms of getting ready when, besides the pre-production and all those kind of things?
Yeah, just practicing, and keep writing songs, because you never know where that greatest next song is going to come from that artist. I've been in the studio and I've been 7 or 8 or 10 songs deep with an artist, and all of a sudden they go, hey man, last night I wrote this because you inspired me. And it was their first single.
Wow.
And it's happened 2 or 3 times now. So I love when that happens, and it's just, like, oh, wait, we need to set up the drums again. If I've gotten that far, right?
Right.
So, and I don't, it's okay by me, I don't get all mad and stuff when other people go, we're done with that. No, you're not done until the record's done.
Right.
And it's turned in and it's on the street,
Yeah.
I've turned in a record after mastering, and, and then all of a sudden, hey, we want to add a song. You want to go back in the studio? Sure.
Yeah.
And it's all good by me. It's still making music and being creative.
Absolutely. I want to talk to you about something that you've come up with. You've come up with this new technology that kind of integrates music frequencies and healing. And I was wondering if you can tell us about it, because I thought it was really, really unique. I think you have a story behind it. I mean, something that was happening to you personally, and you kind of come upon it.
I do. It's a technology I call tomes, which is a strange word in itself. But I was in a car accident in 2007 or so. Had bad nerve damage to the whole right side of my body, and from there I obviously sought medical help. Western and Eastern medicine wasn't helping me, so I took to the internet, which was fairly primitive at that time, and found this thing called sound healing. And I was like, oh, what is that? And I just started researching it. I read literally hundreds of websites and thousands of pages on this and gathered a bunch of data for myself. Went into a studio I had at the time in Woodland Hills and just started putting together frequencies that were known to help heal in many different ways, anxiety and depression, to name a few. And I came up with, things that help me sleep. So and you might say, oh, sleep, well, what does that have to do with anything? Well, when you're in REM, okay, and a normal, healthy human will be in an 8-hour period, will only be in REM for about 20 minutes.
Right.
That's where your body heals, okay? So if I can keep you in REM longer, then in theory, you're gonna heal faster and more.
Right.
Right? Good theory, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
And so I built these, what I call tonalities, with these healing frequencies. And at first I, mixed like 24 or 30, whatever it was, frequencies together and put it all at the same level and listened to it and went, ew, nobody's gonna I can't even listen to that. No.
Right.
And then I was thinking about it, and how can this help me? And I went to sleep. I came up again the next day and I was thinking about it, and wow, what if I mix this? Actually, like different levels and things like that, and maybe some panning, maybe, I don't know, let me just play with it. And I had the time, and so I just played with it, and I came up with, about a whole bunch of different healing tonalities that sound pretty cool now to me.
Wow.
And they've been known, I've had lots of instances where people have, contacted me and told me how amazing they were, and, this helped my daughter improve her anxiety and her depression. She now, went from staying in her bedroom and agoraphobia to, getting out and into the real world, has a boyfriend, a job, an apartment.
That's amazing.
And just making life happen for herself. And that's just one of them. There's been very many. And I also know that it can help pets, horses, and I have a friend who has a horse farm. He's played it for some of his, he has a rescue farm, and so some of the horses that come in have been,
right,
abused.
Neglected or abused, yeah.
Right, and so that, when you get an instance like that happening, the animals are a little bit wild,
right,
and they don't like the sight of a human even sometimes. So he went in, and I asked him to put it in the barn and see what it would do.
Right.
And he told me, and I have some video of it, that it calmed the animal down quite a lot, and that he was able to go in and actually, pet the mare and,
wow,
calm her down quite a bit. And,
that's amazing.
To this day, he still, he plays it in his barn.
Wow. And is that something that's available to the public? Is that something that you offer, that you have?
Yes, I have a subscription-based website at the moment, looking to build an app and stuff like that, so it's more readily available.
What's the name of the site?
Tomes.
Tomes.
It's spelled TAUMMHOMS.com. It's a very strange spelling.
We'll have it on for the show notes and everything. Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gaining a lot of momentum right now. And I'm just looking for people to help me out and to build this app.
Yeah, the reason why I asked you that is because I do a lot of meditation and meditation before I go to sleep at night with theta waves and stuff like that. So when Shannon, your manager, talked to me about that, I was really interested to find out more, because I'm very into that type of natural healing.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, yes, please check it out, and then please let me know how it makes you feel.
Definitely.
Because I'm always looking for ways to improve it, of course, because I don't think it's the end-all be-all.
Right.
I think it's just, there's steps, and I think that, it can be improved. I can mix it differently, which would greatly differ what you felt the night before.
Interesting.
And I've tried that before. I have 2 or 3 different, mixes of the same tonality,
right,
and each one of them has different effects on me. Like, wow, that's pretty wild.
Wow.
So.
Let me ask you, Toby, are there any books or videos or any other types of media that you would recommend to our audience on the subject of music production / business? Are there any things that influenced you or things that you read that you could share with the audience?
Not really. I mean, I have a lot of practical experience.
Okay.
And I think the hands-on way is the best.
Okay.
Because I started Electric Lady in New York as an intern at $5 a day.
Right.
And so that was a lot of, a lot of the experience.
Yeah.
Started in the maintenance department and just learned how to fix gear first.
Wow.
Before they let me actually, use it with a client.
Right.
So I think that's the most practical way. But it's not the only way, obviously.
Right.
Because, millions
but that's the way
people,
that you.
That's the way I was brought up.
Yeah.
And it's near and dear to my heart. And I think that, just doing is always the best.
Right.
And, there's a lot of the mix master type of programs out there that I notice, and those are probably fairly good, but I would take an average of what all of their guests have to say about things.
Okay.
Because one guy probably isn't right all the time, right? He has his ways of doing things for a particular artist, which might not work for you as an artist or the next artist that he works with.
Right.
Right? I try and do things differently every time so that I don't get the same sonic results every time, right? And so if you're in a band and you have a broken guitar, but that's the sound that attracted me, and I didn't know it, and you showed up with it, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna play my guitar. Some guys would look at it and go, let me get you a new guitar.
Right.
I go, plug that in, let's go.
Right. Absolutely. What advice would you give, or do you have as a music industry professional, for up-and-coming artists who are looking to have a career in music, whether it's a music producer or somebody that's wanting to pursue music as their lifelong passion?
Do, and then do some more. And just keep pursuing. I'm relentless in something that I love, right? And music has been one of them, obviously. And I just love music. I keep going and keep going and keep going and improving, trying to improve every day. And it's not about plugins. It's not about the power of my computer. It's about your ears, and how you hear things and perceive things. And I like a very well-balanced song. So when I mix a song, I'll just forget everybody around me, and the drummers whispered something in my ear. Hey man, I like my kick drum like this, or whatever. Guitar players in this ear, singers in this ear. And it's like you have to make music for music's sake. And I think that always turns out the best.
Absolutely.
So I guess the advice would be, keep on trucking, man, and just follow your passion, follow your art. And I guess that's really the best advice.
Fascinating stuff coming from Toby, one of the top record producers for hard rock and metal in the business today. So insiders, question of the day. What were some of the most salient points that stood out to you in our conversation with Toby? Was it his ideas on what you can do to improve your recordings when you don't have a producer for your project? Or was it what he feels are the most important qualities you need to look for when selecting a producer for your project? Or was it what has to be present for him to commit to producing a debut rock or metal act today? Or maybe it was something else that connected with you. We'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe to MUBUTV for more information on how to educate, empower, and engage your music career. You can also check out a summary of this episode and everything we talked about in the description below as well. And if you enjoyed this video, we'd really love it if you hit the like button and let us know what other kinds of videos and types of content you would want to see on our channel. Hit us up on the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.